to me, like, it's Ohio State and then it's everybody else. That's just what it is. And they've earned that right too. Because of the fact that they're national champions, because of the fact that they're undefeated right now. And you could say they haven't been tested. That ain't an Ohio State problem. That's not their problem. They've been doing their job. They've been going in these games. They've been blowing doors off this inferior competition that they've been playing. Like, this to me is like Lane Kiffin with his offense, where Lane Kiffin makes a difference with his play calling. It's the same thing with Brent Venables. He makes a difference with his play calling. I'm going to keep hugging this thing because I want you guys to know how ridiculous I am about my love for the Big Ten and my love for this football team. But it's just, it's not the best conference in the country. And I don't think it necessarily comes close. And I don't know how close they are to even catching up to the SEC. I don't think Marcel Reed played that well in this game. The stats are gaudy, and he played well in spots. And when he needed to step up, he stepped up. But he made some big time mistakes. Missing the 2 field goals, that was huge for Texas A&M. And they were down, 30-3? And they still found a way to come back and win this game. Hello, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the CEO Sports Show for November 16th, 2025. And on today's episode, we are going to be reacting to week 12 of the college football season. How is it week 12 already? I don't understand that. Like, this season has been going by in a flash, and I'm kind of very, very upset about it. But before we get into the episode, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe. Please make sure to check out the rest of the shows on the Kretschmann Media Network. You guys can check them out on the homepage of the CEO Sports Show. We have a college football show, the Stadium Pulse. Please make sure to check that out. I would greatly appreciate that. But without further ado, let's get into the episode. So if you guys are new to the page and new to listening to the college football podcast that I do here, first off, hit that subscribe button. Thank you for tuning in. But second off, we start off every episode by talking about the best program in the country, the best team in the country, the national champions from last year, who are going to be the national champions this year, and that's the Ohio State Buckeyes. And again, I call them the team that never disappoints, and guess what they didn't do yesterday? Disappoint, just like they've been doing, for the entire season and at the latter part of last season. You want to know what's crazy about Ohio State? They didn't have Carnell Tate in this game, and they didn't have Jeremiah Smith for an entire half. And even in the first half, he didn't really play that much. But you saw how good their receiver room is and how deep they are. They have 2 waves of receivers that if you're playing 11 personnel, they have starting receivers on both sets. You talk about the starting unit with Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, and Brandon Ennis. And then you go to their second unit where they have Mylan Graham, Bryson Rogers, Quincy Porter. I mean, you're talking about that second unit could start in 11 personnel on a lot of SEC teams out there. That's how good they are at receiver. That's how loaded they are in that room. And even in this game where, no Jeremiah Smith, no Carnell Tate, they still proved that they can move the ball. And what I was really impressed by was the fact that they ran the ball really effectively. I mean, you're talking about 4 touchdowns on the ground, the much maligned Ohio State running game. They proved it yesterday. And even though Julian Sayin didn't have his best stuff yesterday, he was still efficient enough to move the ball consistently and get this offense in the red area and to put points on the board. So that's where I just come away so impressed with Ohio State, is that they could beat you in so many different ways. There's not necessarily a great way to beat them. Nobody in the country really matches up with Ohio State. And another thing I want to talk about, by the way, I saw a take this week, and I just have so little respect for the guy who made this take. So, dunking on this guy is very fun. Wacky Dan Orlovsky said that the Ohio State Buckeyes, we don't know how good of a team they are because they haven't played that good of competition. But he was probably somebody who was hyping up Arch Manning in the preseason as the number 1 overall pick in this upcoming draft. That's besides the point, though. Do you have eyes? Do you see the players on this roster? Julian Sayin is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Jeremiah Smith is one of the best college wide receivers of all time. Carnell Tate is a first-round pick receiver. And then you look at their second unit with their receivers, stacked. You look at their tight end, Max Clare, NFL player. You go to their defense, NFL players everywhere on that defense. Caleb Downs, Arvell Reese, the defensive line, Sonny Styles. What are we talking about here? I get it. They haven't played great competition, but we can open our eyes and see the eye-popping talent that is clearly on display with Ohio State. We see teams all the time play competition that are like UCLA and like Minnesota and like Washington, and they don't look like Ohio State looks against them. Why? Because they're not Ohio State. They don't have the guys that Ohio State does. And mind you, this is not a program that hasn't proven anything. They're the national champions from last year. So I don't know what wacky Dan Orlovsky is talking about here. And I honestly think he needs to stick to covering the Buffalo Bills, because we all know the only thing he's good at doing is talking about Josh Allen. But that's besides the point, because I just thought that was really funny that he decided to come to that take when he's trying to establish a presence in college football. And it's like, really? You're going after Ohio State? I don't know, man. That's a choice. That's a choice. But that's besides the point. You know, the thing is with Ohio State, and this is where I give Ryan Day so much credit, is that Ryan Day is genuine. He's not trying to be something that he's not. He's not trying to be one of these coaches where he's like, we're winning by 30 plus points. You guys aren't doing good enough. That's not him. Matt Patricia, the defensive coordinator, I mean, when you see that guy on the sidelines, I mean, he just exudes confidence. Like, if you're an Ohio State fan, how confident are you when you roll up into a game and they're showing the coaches and you see Ryan Day, you see Matt Patricia, you see Brian Hartline? You know that not only do you have the better football team on the field, you have the better coaching staff on the sidelines. We see this all the time. LSU this year is as talented as any team in the country, but we saw what happened when they didn't have the right guy on the sidelines. The right guy, because they have a great defensive coordinator there with Blake Baker, but they didn't have the guy at head coach or at offensive coordinator. Ohio State, that's not the case. They're the most talented team in the country. They're the most well-coached team in the country. There's no flaws with this football team. And I don't care about, oh, they haven't played anybody. Okay, Georgia didn't play anybody in their national championship run, right? When the SEC was divided into two separate divisions, nobody talked about that. We were like, oh man, Georgia's really good. And that's how I feel about Ohio State. They're just a really damn good football team. And they're a team that has proven that they can show up in the big spots. They're not a program that hasn't been there before. This is not Penn State doing this. This is Ohio State. This is right now the best program in the country. They've been there. They've done that. The things that people think Indiana and Texas A&M and Georgia can do this year, even though Georgia's already done it because they won back-to-back national champions. So I guess I should take them out of this. The things that people think Texas A&M and Indiana can do, Ohio State's done that. I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen them really even tested this year. And I get it. You could talk about the competition. All right, fine, cool. I saw Indiana struggle against Penn State the week after Ohio State blew the doors off Penn State. Like, that's where I'm coming from with Ohio State. I mean, what team in the country are you looking at and you say, wow, they match up band for band with Ohio State? None. There's not a team in the country that does. Like Indiana, they have some nice pieces. They're a really damn good football team. They're not Ohio State. Texas A&M, they have some really good pieces. They're not Ohio State. Georgia has some really good pieces. They're not Ohio State. There's no team in the country that comes close to this team. Everybody is fighting for second place when it comes to Ohio State. And wacky Dan Orlovsky can say whatever he wants. Oh, well, we'll know about this team when they're down by 4. Hey, Orlovsky, they're not going to be down by 4, my guy. They're not going to be down by 4. They're going to, it's to me like it's Ohio State and then it's everybody else. That's just what it is. And they've earned that right too. Because of the fact that they're national champions, because of the fact that they're undefeated right now. And you could say they haven't been tested. That ain't an Ohio State problem. That's not their problem. They've been doing their job. They've been going in these games. They've been blowing doors off this inferior competition that they've been playing. That ain't their fault. So Again, another week goes by and another week where Ohio State just proves once again that they're just head and shoulders above everybody else. And everybody will see that come college football playoff time, where we hear the stupid narratives about Ohio State hasn't played anybody. And then you want to know what Ohio State's going to do? All these teams that, they might give them a problem. Ohio State's going to go in there and blow them out by 20 plus points. Because that's just what they are. They're better than everybody else. And it's their year this year. They're going to repeat. And maybe next year a team could, surpass them. But it's not going to be this year. Hey, quick break. If you guys are enjoying the episode, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Make sure to check out the rest of the shows on the Kretschmann Media Network. It is on the homepage of this YouTube channel. Please make sure to check that out. Back to the episode. All right, so I want to get into this group of 5 conversation. I know there's a lot of talk about this, and this is the main topic. This is what I really wanted to get into and what I'm really passionate about, but we got to start off every show talking about Ohio State until they lose, even though they're not going to lose, but that's besides the point. The group of 5 does not deserve to have an automatic qualifier in the college football playoffs, let alone, not only that, I don't think the SEC or any conference in the country deserves to have an automatic qualifier in the college football playoffs. Are we really worried that an SEC team isn't going to separate themselves as one of the top 12 teams in the country, let alone 2, let alone 3 SEC teams separate themselves as one of the 12 best teams in the country? I don't think that the ACC deserves to have an automatic qualifier. There's going to be a team that wins the ACC this year that has no business being the college football playoffs that's going to be in it because of that rule. You're allowing bad behavior, and I don't like that. You're allowing teams that win bad conferences to be in the college football playoffs rather than a team that's playing well in a great conference, but they're not one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the SEC, let's just say. You're not going to allow them in the college football playoffs because you have to let a team that would be a 3-win team in the SEC. You got to let them in the college football playoffs. You got to let a group of 5 team that would win 1 game in the SEC. You got to let them in the college football playoffs. That's absolutely ludicrous to me. Are you trying to tell me right now, USC, do you think that they can't compete with Texas Tech, which I think they're the 5th best team in the country right now? That's where they're ranked. That would be the first round matchup if USC was the 12 seed. Do you think that USC or James Madison is giving them a better fight? Do you think USC or Georgia Tech is giving them a better fight? Matter of fact, I'll say this, USC could win that game. I don't think James Madison, I don't think Georgia Tech could win that game. I think USC could win that game. So we're actually not putting the best teams on the field to compete for the biggest prize, especially in this year in college football, where if you're not Ohio State, you can get got by anybody. I don't know. I think you're setting a really bad precedent with that, in my personal opinion. Like, yes, I get it. Cincinnati a few years ago, they were a team that they made the college football playoffs. They would make the college football playoffs this year, right? Because they would have deserved it. And yeah, Boise State last year, they were a group of 5 team that made the college football playoffs because they deserved to make the college football playoffs. We could all see that was one of the 12 best teams in the country. Just like we saw with Cincinnati in 21-22, that they're one of the best teams in the country. And they deserve to be in the college football playoffs. Well, at least if it's a 12-team playoff. Absolutely, they deserve that. But this year, come on. Like, we're going to have a game in the college football playoffs that's going to be unwatchable. Like, Texas Tech is going to take the pants off of James Madison. It's going to be an unwatchable game. But if you actually had a team that could sit in there, maybe a Vanderbilt, maybe a USC, that could actually sit in there and go band for band with Texas Tech, we would actually have a better game. We would actually have more interesting storylines. But you're going to have teams that are like, you want to know what? We don't want to win our conference because we want to get that 5 seed. Hey, we want to play James Madison. We want to take the pants off of them. It's setting a bad precedent. USC and Oregon play, I believe, next week. And that to me is damn near college football playoff eliminator right there. Are you trying to tell me that Oregon or USC shouldn't be in the top 12, but damn James Madison does? Or Georgia Tech does? Oregon and USC are better than both of those teams. Vanderbilt is better than both of those teams. Utah is better than both of those teams. I don't know. It does not sit right with me, and I don't like it. And I think that college football should move off that rule. It's not cute. It's not that, oh, let's get a Cinderella story. You can have a Cinderella story in college basketball because you can have a team, let's just say, like, hypothetically, you have a team that comes in, they're a 15th seed and they're shooting the ball really well one night, and the team that's a second seed is having a really off game. Yeah, you can win that game because the separation when it comes to talent over the span of an entire roster isn't nearly what it is in football. In football, there's 22 guys on the field. If you're better at every one of those 11 positions than your opponent, you're not going to win that game. No matter how bad the team that has the better players or how great the team that has the worst players, if it's 11 out of 11 for one team, the other team is not winning that game. It's just not going to happen. So that's where I come from, and I'm just like, look, they need to get this damn rule out of there. Because you're allowing teams that don't deserve to be in the college football playoffs in the college football playoffs. College football is defined by two conferences right now, the SEC and the Big Ten. Big 12, they have some really nice competition over there. They're establishing themselves as, I think, the third best conference in college football. It's better than the ACC. The ACC this year is not good. So, like, I think that there are multiple teams from all three of those conferences that deserve to be in the college football playoff. And I don't think they're going to make it because of the fact that we have to do participation trophies for the ACC and the group of five. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. And they need to get rid of this. Hey, quick break. If you guys are enjoying the episode, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Make sure to check out the rest of the shows on the Kretschmann Media Network. It is on the homepage of this YouTube channel. Please make sure to check that out. Back to the episode. So I want to move on to Oklahoma and their impressive win over Alabama here. I think you have to give a round of applause to Brent Venables. Brent Venables, I believe, is an outstanding coach. It's taken him a little bit to build his program at Oklahoma, but this thing is built, and I think that they're going to be here to stay. And this is a program, and this is where I think you have to give Venables credit, that when they were announced that they were going to the SEC, everybody looked at them and said, oh, they're going to be the bottom feeders of the SEC. They're not going to be able to compete in that conference. Well, not only are they competing, they're walking into Tuscaloosa and beating Alabama. Brent Venables against Alabama the last 2 years, 2-0, and with a win in Tuscaloosa. That is wildly impressive to me. So, and not only that, when you look at the defense that he called against Alabama, holy cow, this guy put on an absolute masterclass defensively. He carried, and this is the thing, we talk about coaches being able to carry their teams to victory. That defense carried that Oklahoma team to victory. And a big part of the reason why that defense played as well as it did was because of Brent Venables' play calling. The offense for Oklahoma, we know what it is. It's an unbalanced offense. You have some pieces that you really like on Oklahoma. I really like Mateer. I really like Deion Burks. I really like Satania. I really like these guys. But their run game is not good. And I think that their offense gets a bit predictable at times. To me, it's an offense that doesn't have very many ways to beat you. But is it an offense that's good enough to score 21 points? If the defense allows 20, which they're absolutely capable of doing, yeah, it is. And that's where you have to give Brent Venables credit, because he is one of the coaches in the entire country that is legitimately making a difference on the field when it comes to what he's doing as a play caller and the way he's dialing things up. You have to give him credit there. And Ty Simpson had a good game in this one, but what happened? Venables dialed up something, and Ty Simpson didn't read it right, and he threw an interception, pick six. That was the difference in the game. So, again, I just think it's so underrated when it's, to me, not underrated. It doesn't get talked about enough when you have a coach on the sidelines that is legitimately making a difference on what they're doing on the field. Every team, right, when they're on the field, if you have a good coach, they're going to play up to their talent level or even better. But when you look at Brent Venables, right, and what he's doing, scheming things up, it's different from that perspective. Like, this to me is like Lane Kiffin with his offense, where Lane Kiffin makes a difference with his play calling. It's the same thing with Brent Venables. He makes a difference with his play calling. And to me, this is a program that's heading in the right direction. And the problem with Oklahoma over the past few years is that they just haven't got that quarterback position right. Now they got the quarterback position right. Even though the offense still isn't that good, they at least got a guy that, he's good enough. And I really like Mateer. I really like him. I think he's a good player. He's a guy that, even though the pieces around him aren't amazing, they're not that great, he could still make things happen with his legs, even if the running game isn't playing well or isn't doing what they have to do. And he's a guy that can get the ball to his receivers down the field. Like, from that perspective, this team, to me, they're a team that could beat any team in the country outside of Ohio State. Like, Oklahoma can beat any team in the country outside of Ohio State. That's just the way I feel about them. Now, would I pick them in every game outside of Ohio State? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't pick them, but I would say they have a chance. It's not one of those games that I don't watch because, I think that it's going to be a lopsided game. They can beat Indiana. They can beat Georgia. They can beat Ole Miss. They can beat these teams. Not saying they're going to, but they can. And that's why, to me, it's a no-brainer. If I was on the college football committee, it's a no-brainer that they should be in the college football playoffs. They played their way there. They only have 2 losses in this SEC that, people thought they were going to have a really difficult time only losing 2 games this year. They're at that right now, and I like their chances in their last 2 games. And even if they drop one of these games, they deserve to be in the college football playoffs. That's just the way I feel about this team. And do I think they're going to? No, I don't think they're going to lose those games. They're going to be in the college football playoffs, and they're going to be a pain in the butt for everybody in the country outside of Ohio State. Even Ohio State, they're going to be able to, dial up some things defensively that could give Ohio State maybe a little bit of problems, but Ohio State's defense would just be way too much for Oklahoma's offense. I don't think Oklahoma would be able to move the ball in that defense. So, that's where I'm at with Oklahoma. I'm there. This is a college football playoff team. This is one of the better teams in the country. They're one of the better teams in the SEC. Are they going to make the SEC championship game? I don't know, because they do have 2 conference losses, and that's going to hurt them. This isn't like Texas going into yesterday's game. They had 1 conference loss, so they had a chance to make it happen in the SEC. But we saw what happened yesterday. They got absolutely blown out. And if you're a Sooner fan watching this, you probably enjoy me saying that they got absolutely blown out. But that's the thing. That's what kind of hurts them, is that they have the 2 conference losses compared to an out-of-conference loss and 1 conference loss. So, they stand a chance here. How far can they go in the playoffs? They can go far, because what do they say? Defense wins championships, and they have a defense that can get them to a championship. I'm just not willing to say that they're going to compete with Ohio State. But if you're Oklahoma, if you get to the national championship, I think you got to look at that as a big time win as a program, and look at that as a step in the right direction as to where they're going as a program. And this win against Alabama, that's impressive as it gets. You go into Alabama, one of the hottest teams in the country, in Tuscaloosa, it's extremely difficult to play in, and you gut out a victory like that. Says a lot about the coach, says a lot about the players on that team, says a lot about that program. And credit to them. I'm happy for Oklahoma. I really am. Hey, quick break. If you guys are enjoying the episode, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Make sure to check out the rest of the shows on the Kretschmann Media Network. It is on the homepage of this YouTube channel. Please make sure to check that out. Back to the episode. So I am holding an Ohio State helmet right here. People are going to ask me, why am I holding an Ohio State helmet? The reason why is because I want to prove a point. This is one of my most prized possessions. I love Big Ten football. It's my favorite conference, but just because it's my favorite does not mean it's the best conference in college football, because it's so clearly not. The SEC is the best conference in college football. And while, yes, the best team plays in the Big Ten, and the last 2 national champions came from the Big Ten, there is no way you can watch the Texas A&M and South Carolina game and convince yourself that the Big Ten is a better conference. Don't confuse the best team playing in that conference with the best conference in college football, because we saw on Saturday, not just with Texas A&M, but with Ole Miss as well, that these are 3-win SEC teams that are competing with teams that are at the top of the conference. We have to give it up as Big Ten fans. We have to give it up. It's not the best conference in college football. It's just not. The SEC every single week has great games that are on ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. Why do you think they invest in the SEC? Because they know they're going to get the best product on their airwaves every single week. They're not going to invest in the Big Ten because they're not going to get the best product on their airwaves. They're going to get Ohio State versus UCLA. That's a 48-10 game, and people turn it off at halftime because they're up by 20 plus points, and they know that there's no chance that UCLA is going to come back in that game. There's one game every year in the Big Ten that really, really brings out numbers, and that's Ohio State versus the team up north. That's just what it is. Yet every single week in the SEC, Georgia versus Texas, you think that didn't do big numbers? You had Alabama versus Oklahoma, like back-to-back right there, back-to-back spots on television. It shows you that those were two big-time matchups between four big-time programs that were being played right there. And it just shows you that the SEC is the best conference in America. And Texas A&M versus South Carolina proved that. Ole Miss versus Florida proved that. These were fantastic games that were being played, and they were being played because of how great the SEC is. There's a reason why SEC fans are pretentious. There's a reason why they hold themselves above every other conference in the country, because it's just a better conference. And while, yes, the last two national champions came from the Big Ten, I don't think there's any way you can look at some of the games that the SEC has had this year and the depth of competition from the SEC and say that the Big Ten's the better conference. I mean, Oklahoma just went to Alabama and won that game. South Carolina went into Texas A&M and almost won that game. It's just so obvious to see that the best conference in the country is the SEC. And I'm gonna hug my Ohio State helmet, because I love it to death. I do. And you guys see, that's the shoe right there. I love this team. I love this conference. I love the teams in the conference. When I talk about programs, I love Ohio State as a program. I love Oregon as a program. I love USC as a program. I respect Michigan as a program. I'm going to keep hugging this thing because I want you guys to know how ridiculous I am about my love for the Big Ten and my love for this football team. But it's just, it's not the best conference in the country. And I don't think it necessarily comes close. And I don't know how close they are to even catching up to the SEC, because I think that they need to continue to build out the depth of this conference. And when you talk about the depth of the conference, you need teams like, Penn State has to start stepping up here. Iowa's a fun team, but I think we all knew that Iowa wasn't going to, they're not one of the teams that could go to the SEC and win a bunch of games. I think they're more comparable to like Florida in that sense. Like if you ask me who I think a better team is, Florida or Iowa, I think Florida would beat Iowa. That's just my personal opinion. I don't think Indiana would go into the SEC and be undefeated. I think Ohio State would, but that's because they're the best team in the country. But I don't think Oregon is definitely not going to be undefeated in the SEC. USC, I think that they're a very interesting team, me personally, but I think that they're probably a 4-loss SEC team, in my personal opinion. Like, are we sure that Texas is better than that, or that they're better than Texas? Are we sure of that? Like, I think USC is a better team, but like, are we 100% sure of that? Like, that's where I'm coming from. Like Missouri, Vanderbilt, like these teams build out the depth of that conference. And then when you look at the top of the conference, again, Ohio State's above everybody else, but the top of the conference, you have Texas A&M, Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss, Oklahoma. Those are 4 teams that deserve to be in the top 10 and have played really difficult schedules. Now, obviously, the Big Ten, they have a few top 10 teams. They have Ohio State, they have Indiana, and they have Oregon. But again, I just look at the SEC, and it's not just those teams. It's when you keep getting down and down the list of teams. Florida's a pain in the ass for every team in the SEC. Every team in the SEC, Florida's going to be a pain in the behind for, because of some of the things they can do defensively and the fact that they're just a really gritty football team. And DJ Lagway makes some things happen from time to time. But the SEC, they got it, man. They got it. And I was somebody after Ohio State ran the table against the SEC in the college football playoff, and the fact that they beat Texas week 1. I was one of the Big Ten fans saying that the SEC isn't as good as the Big Ten. And I looked like an absolute fool. This is like a counseling session. And that's why I have my Buckeyes helmet here. And that's why I'm holding it, because this is hard for me to admit that I'm wrong. It's hard for me to admit that I was wrong. But you want to know what? I was wrong. The SEC has it. These games are so damn entertaining that the SEC is putting on. And I'm so excited for the SEC championship game. I'm more excited for the SEC championship game than I am the Big Ten championship game. Because I think whoever Ohio State plays, I think they're probably going to play Indiana. They're going to blow the doors off of Indiana. It just is what it is. But that's just my little therapy session as a Big Ten fan to just give the SEC the respect that they deserve. They got it. They're the best conference in the country. And until further notice, Big Ten fans, we just got to hold the L for the current moment. But we will win the war. They're going to win the battle. SEC is going to win the battle. But we're going to win the war, because this team is going back to back. And SEC fans, I'm going to cut a promo on you right now. SEC fans, I am hugging my Ohio State helmet dearly. And I am admitting that you guys are the best conference in the country. But don't get it twisted. Ohio State's going back to back, and the Big Ten is going to have a national champion for the 3rd year in a row. So while you do guys have the best conference in the country, you don't have the Ohio State University in your conference. You don't have 3 straight national champions in your conference. We do. So you guys win the battle, we win the war. Take that. Hey, quick break. If you guys are enjoying the episode, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Make sure to check out the rest of the shows on the Crutchman Media Network. It is on the homepage of this YouTube channel. Please make sure to check that out. Back to the episode. So I want to talk about this Texas A&M versus South Carolina game. I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys. At first, I thought, man, Texas A&M, are they as good as I thought they were going into this game? And this is the take that I have coming out of this game. Texas A&M almost lost to South Carolina, and they played the worst game of football I think they could possibly play, and they still found a way to win games. Offensively, making so many damn mistakes. I don't think Marcel Reed played that well in this game. The stats are gaudy, and he played well in spots, and when he needed to step up, he stepped up, but he made some big-time mistakes. Missing the 2 field goals, that was huge for Texas A&M. And they were down, 30-3? And they still found a way to come back and win this game. They deserve credit for that. We could sit here and say, oh, Texas A&M, they're not as good as we thought. They're frauds. I mean, we've seen this team play for the last, 9-10 weeks. And we've seen that, no, this is a really damn good football team. And they had a really, really bad game. And it was a really bad game that they still ended up winning. And that's where I think you got to go here with Texas A&M. And I like a lot of the pieces on this team. I love Marcel Reed. I love Mike Elko. I love a lot of the players that they have on this roster. The receivers, I think, are very good. They have some very interesting players defensively. And that's where I look at Texas A&M and said, they played the worst game of football they could possibly play, and they still found a way to win that game. And that's what I found impressive about this win against South Carolina. Not every win's going to look great. It's just not. That's just not the case. And this game looked as ugly as it could look. And they found a way to pull it out. And they deserve credit for that. They do. I know people like to hate on Texas A&M, but they deserve credit. At every spot, they had an opportunity to do what Texas A&M usually does. And they didn't do what Texas A&M usually does. Because they have a legitimate coach. They have Mike Elko. He is a program changer. And I will say this. I'm a big Marcel Reed fan, but I think Marcel Reed is going to be the reason why they don't get to where they need to get to this year. And The reason why I say that is not because I don't believe in Marcel Reed's long-term potential here. I do. I think he's made big-time strides from his freshman season. But I just think that because of the fact that he isn't as far along in his development as he's going to get to, I think that's going to be the thing that holds him back. When he faces pressure, there's times where he makes just some disastrous mistakes. And when you're playing some of the top teams in the country, it's difficult to overcome some of those things. They're not going to play South Carolina every single week where they can make as many mistakes as they made and leave as many points on the board as they could possibly leave and still find a way to win. I believe in this program long-term. I believe in Marcel Reed's long-term prospects, but I don't believe that he is going to be the guy that gets them where they need to get to this year. He's an awesome quarterback. He's an awesome player. I just think the inexperience and some of the mistakes that he makes when he faces pressure is going to hold them back from being where they need to be, which is in the national championship game, because they have the talent to be there. I just worry about Marcel Reed's decision-making at times. And when you're playing a team like Oklahoma, like if they play Oklahoma, they're going to get got. Because Oklahoma defensively, they're going to do some things on the back end. They're going to dial up some blitzes. They're going to do all these disguises to confuse Marcel Reed. And he's going to make mistakes in that game. That's a game I think that they would lose. So, again, this isn't a Marcel Reed hate session. If he wins the Heisman, I'm cool with that. I like Marcel Reed. I think he's going to be an NFL quarterback. That's what I think he's going to develop into. But I just think that this season, sophomore season, second year as a starter, still getting game reps, still needing development in his game. I think that's going to be the reason why they don't get to where they need to. And because I just don't want people to think I'm hating on this young man because I'm such a big fan of him. But I just think that there's some things he needs to work on, and some of those things I think could potentially hold them back. So that's going to be it for the episode, though, guys. I wanted to get into more. I just don't have enough time to continue to talk about college football, even though I love it, and I want to dive into as much as I can. I wanted to make sure that the topics that I went through got fleshed out. Man, so much great college football, and college football is the best. NFL, I love the NFL. This season, college football just has it. But please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, guys. I would greatly appreciate that. And until next time, I will see you guys later.